Hello. Right, so this is going to be a quick little video on how I process sounds for my personal sound effects library. A lot of people starting out, they're not going to have access to all of this stuff. You know, they're not going to have all the recordist libraries and whatever, but they might have a few things like Boom Library. So that's all I'm going to use for this video, and maybe one or two of my personal sounds that I've made. So yeah, here's the clip. I'm just going to do the sound for that grenade, and I'll show you my approach. Often when I see tutorials on like how to do a gunshot or how to do this or that, they'll start right from scratch. They'll start from absolutely nothing, and they'll be like, open up phase plant, you know, do the make all the laser sounds in that, then export these, and it's this massive convoluted process. And I don't think it needs to be that convoluted, you know. I used to try and do it like that, and it just took ages to get anything done, and I was never actually happy with the results. So I'm going to just show you how I would do this. So we've got the grenade here, right? Where is it? So there's the explosion. I'm going to just line this up here. Cool. And then we're going to have a look at Boom Library. I'll use the urban explosions. I'll use the construction stuff, and I'll show you what I would do. Cool. So we'll use. Let me just get rid of the video. We'll use this sound here. Think of these things in layers. So that sounds decent. I want some really close sound. No. No, that's not bad. Yeah, let's take that. So we've got, that's kind of distant. That's close. And I quite like that transient, so we'll use that. And maybe one other thing. And I'll bring the volume down a touch. I'm not going to use these because that's kind of the thing we're trying to make here. Alright, that's quite nice. Oh, take that in. Right, so we're just going to layer this up, and I'm just going to show you like what that sounds like. It won't be good, but doesn't matter. Well, I mean, the assets themselves sound quite nice, so it might not sound too bad. And then we have a look at the video. So it doesn't work. So what do we do about that? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new track here. We're going to make an effects chain for this. Let me drag over one of the assets. So I'm going to use the main one for now, which, let's say it's this one. So we're not going to make a designed asset out of this. That's not going to happen. We're just going to process it a little bit until it sounds bigger. And that's all we want. So we want to just process all these little sounds until they sound slightly bigger, then make a library out of those. That way, in the future, you can just cut this whole step out and just drag and drop. Of course, it's always good to just spend a day or two making source before any kind of big task. But I mean, yeah, this is kind of what I would do. So we'll use this. Let me just show you the before and after. Does not do much. So that's all we want, slightly bigger, nice. Pitch this down a touch. Right, so what else do we want? We want to add some distortion or a bit of saturation to this. Again, we'll use this. Bump this up a touch. Sounds quite nice. And then you can hear it in the tail, it's got, you can actually see it as well. It's got all these little like crackly things. So I want to emphasize that a little bit. So for that, I'm going to just use Transx Multi. I'm going to just use a preset. I don't know what one. Punchy in the middle. Yep, that does the job. Okay. Then we want to compress it. So wave C1. Use any compressor you want, doesn't matter. Oops, put this back to 0. Ratio up a little bit. Attack. When you bump the attack up like this, it'll let the initial part of the transient through. It'll let this bit through, then compress the rest. So you get more of a poppy sound. You get something more like that. So, yeah. I normally split up the assets, so I wouldn't use one whole thing for the explosion and the tail. I'd probably only use this bit here. But maybe not that short, but yeah, I wouldn't use the whole thing. But for this, just for the source, this is perfectly fine. Some people want choose to do this bit in Sound Miner, which is perfectly fine. That's what it's made for. But I can't recommend it for someone starting out because it's quite expensive. Cool. So there we go. Done that. Then we're going to add L316. Bring this down. Bring the bass down. Bump up to 50. Bring this down. I'm just making this up as I go along. This isn't like a thing that I do all the time. Cool. So that sounds good to me. Is there anything we're missing here? Some people like to add OTT. Let's try it. That is absolutely god awful. I don't like it. I feel like it just adds a bunch of noise. So, okay, that's our chain done. And that took about 5 minutes. So, what we're going to do now is we're going to drag and drop this into here. So, before and after, we've got this. Then after. Pitch that down. No, that sounded rubbish. Pitch it back up. Then we've got this. I've got high hopes for this one. It's actually quite quiet. Alright then. And then let's see how this one sounds. So before, after. I'm not keen on it. Just the general sound, I'm not keen on it. Compressor's nice, but that shouldn't be used across every single sound. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to I'll use this deverb thing, SPL. So before and after. It's quite subtle, but I like it. So I don't think these explosions are really doing it for me, so I'm going to just have a quick look. I'm going to just type in shotgun, because I want a mech sound. That's nice. Yep, that sounds good. And then what you can do is you can just kind of search for whatever you want and then just drag that onto the same track and it'll play through. You know, you'll have like a processed asset. But no, I don't want that. Alright. Explosion maybe? Okay. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just bounce all these down. Oops, that wasn't right. Bounce all these down to a stereo track. Normally I do this one by one, but there's quite a few of them, so I don't want to spend too long doing this. Item processing, dynamic split, that's fine. Okay, so here's our video. So now we want to layer these things up. And you can see they've all got transients. We don't actually need that. So we might want to do something more like this. Offset this. That's quite nice. They're very similar though. We've got that gunshot. Just because it's a grenade or whatever, doesn't mean you can't use mech sounds or gunshots or even these silencers. Let's go to, I don't know. That's nice. So you could put that through the chain as well. So I'll loop this, hit 1, and then drag this to here. Obviously it's not perfect, this wouldn't be the final design, but just to give you an idea of what you could potentially do. Then we're going to group this all together. And then we'll add something like this. That was quite loud. Put an L2 on it just so it's not too loud. So you can see it on this like grey bit here where they all stack up and what it looks like. So we've kind of not synced it to anything, but I wanted to sync more to this here. So we got the initial, then this. Obviously this wouldn't work if you were doing this for in-game, but it's just linear design. So we do that. So then another trick you could do here. I've seen people's Reaper sessions and they've got like an R base here and one here, but it's like you don't even need to do that. The easiest way you can do this is just whatever bass plugin you want. So we'll use low ender, it doesn't matter. And then find something we want to send to that. So maybe we'll try this. And then we'll bring this down a touch. Then do this. Will this work? No, I don't like it. We'll just bypass that. That's too loud. Make that mono. Cool. So then we might want to do something mono bass. And then this thing here. Too much. You don't need it. Cool. So then highlight this and then bounce this down. So what you could do here is since you've got all these stems, you could export these into your own personal library just so you don't need to go through all that stuff again. Of course, save the chain and then export this thing, bounce this down. Then that could potentially be one of your designed explosions. But it doesn't need to really stop there. I've kind of went over this in my other videos, but you could then reuse this. So if we go here, and then we decide we want to add this to it, and we'll add this. No, I like this one better. We want to add like a little riser thing here. I don't know how this will sound. Oops. That's quite nice. I like the crunchiness to it. Let's try this one instead. So these things work, and it's all just the same process. So I've done exactly the same thing. So I load all these things up, and then we got this. It's actually just the stuff from the Apex Legends redesign, which is on YouTube. So then what you could do is take these things that you've already exported and drag them back in, and then process them again through this chain. So you can just kind of keep going with it. Because that sounds quite nice like that. So then we could highlight this, bounce this down, and then you can see it actually changes the shape of it, and that's the transient shapers, of course, and it's a lot more manageable now. So and then put this here. Let's bypass this for now. Turn this all the way down. Oops. So main explosion happens here, we can kind of see it there. Make this mono. Actually, I think I've messed this up. Yep. Because this is the aux track. Normally this would be a bit more color coordinated and stuff, but pitch that up over time. Oh, I wouldn't use this. I wouldn't use this riser thing, but you get the idea. So then we might want to then group these together, like so. Then add some crazy distortion thing. What do I want? This thing. Something like that. Now, what happens if we bump this up? Then we could potentially pitch this, we could potentially bounce this down. And then you see the waveform's all messed up. You would never, I wouldn't personally save that. But then what we could do is bypass this, move this over a touch, and use this as that like crispy attack layer. That kind of thing. Where is this? So make that mono. Yeah, make it mono. I'm thinking more because of the distance. Like you can see it on the screen, right? So you got explosion here. What I see a lot of people do is they have explosion here, but then a super wide like sound effect. And it just sounds a bit weird. So for this kind of design, since you can see it in such like a clear like point, I'd make this mono. You can have the sweetener layers stereo and all that, you know, like the tail and stuff, but generally the main design would be mono. Cool. And then use transient shaper. We want to really emphasize the attack. So you get something kind of like that. I'll try and find some sort of synth layer that I would use here. Cool, something like this. It doesn't quite work, but you get the idea. Yeah, so that's kind of the way I would approach this whole thing. Am I recording? Yes, Jesus Christ. That's how I would approach this whole thing. So maybe I would get a new plugin or something. Like I just got Whoosh recently. And where is it? So I've been making stuff for that. Just putting a bunch of stuff I've already made. Like a lot of these libraries, it looks like there's tons of stuff here. But I mean, if you actually look at it, a lot of the stuff from Synth Elements, you know, is then reused in Traveler, and also reused in Whoosh, also reused in Granular. Yeah, and even the explosions here, we've got like, so I recorded these, and then that's all part of this explosions processed. Deep fried explosions, they're good to have. And then, yeah, loads of stuff. JD Punch, this is probably the one I use the most. Not so much these days, but I did used to use it quite a lot. So that's kind of the idea. Even if you just get like one synth library, you can get quite a lot of mileage out of it if you've just got Faceplant or something. I would just say watch some tutorials on YouTube, and then you might end up with, I don't know, what was the first thing I made? Probably, it's probably something from Massive. I'll still have it, it'll still be in this library, I'm not too sure where. But yeah, so just make a bunch of that. So like this stuff, it's not bad, it's quite interesting. So if I was to use this in a design, I wouldn't use the full thing. But then you just take the bits you want. So looking at it, I might just want this bit. So you got, oh god. And it just has that kind of tonal sweetener there. And just, yeah, makes it sound a little bit more unique. And then I might pitch it down and just fade this in. Just see how it sounds. I'll make a new track here, put this here. You got to be careful though, because a lot of this synthy stuff can sound really wide. And if you're designing sound for this, it does not match what's happening on screen, even a little bit. So you got to be careful. One thing you can do is, if you've got this width parameter here, just bring that down. It doesn't need to be mono, but just a little bit more narrow. So yeah, and you don't need to make crazy complicated stuff. Don't know what this is. You're actually probably not going to get a lot of use out of that. I know, like, I made it and it sounds quite cool and I'm quite happy with it. But you're not going to use that all over the place. I think maybe the stuff I made with the neutron, maybe I would use that quite a lot. JD neutron. And that's just, this is just really basic stuff. Not saying you need to buy a neutron to do this, it's just quite simple. you'd probably get more mileage out of this than you would out of this. Oh, that's quite nice though. Right, let's see how this sounds. This will probably not work, but... But yeah, the idea, you get the idea. Just mess about with it. And then, so you made your synth stuff, then drag it down to the bottom here, and then have a listen to it through the chain. Where did it go? Is it this? Well, let's have a listen to this. Is that the chain? Yeah. But if it's already this slammed, like this is quite loud already, you can't take it much further. But yeah, you get the idea. And then just put a bunch of that in the library, then when it comes to do a design, you can just drag and drop, basically. Always make new stuff, because it keeps it interesting. But at least you've got a good starting point. Because when I see designs like this, like, some people might have ideas in their head, but I actually like don't hear anything. I've got no ideas. I just kind of start with a few bits of source and that gets me going. Well, it sounds quite scary, but it's worked, up until now, so I'm not too bothered. So yeah, hope this was useful. Cheers.